The Molly Reese presentation had been given so many times that the preacher could have recited most of it without the aid of the papers on the lectern before him, just as the woman did her part without prompting or direction. She had it easier than he, of course, possessing no tongue and being able to produce only the most rudimentary approximations of understandable speech. She wasn't required to say anything to the congregants. Repetition of the performance had helped her overcome any sense of shyness or hesitancy she had once possessed. In earlier days, she had felt a normal human resistance to letting others see her abnormality, and had gone through life with her mouth clamped tightly shut most of the time. Those who sought to see for themselves what was, or was not, inside the oral orifice were turned away consistently. She would not be treated like some living horror or mutilation. All that had changed when she met Abner Bledsoe. Something about the man had drawn her, pulled her out of herself, and filled her with fascination for him. Just what it was, she couldn't say. It was certainly not physical. He was a plain enough fellow, to be sure. Nor was it a serious interest in his religious teachings. God had done little for her, in her estimation, and she had decided years ago she could and would do without him. And if that meant she would also do without him when she entered the next life, whatever it was, well, so be it. Fine with her. She had met Bledsoe on a street in a town in Virginia. A purely random meeting, made memorable by the injury she had suffered when Bledsoe rode too close to her on his horse, and a hoof crushed her foot into the dirt street, breaking 2 of her toes. She had gone down with a cry, and Bledsoe had dismounted to see what he had unwittingly done. It was a fated meeting for them both. It didn't take long for Bledsoe to realize that the woman he'd injured had a distinctive handicap. Her first effort at speaking revealed it. Muddied, murky approximations of word sounds, only a few of which he understood. As coincidence or fate would have it, Bledsoe had, only the day before, read the already famous account of Molly Reese and her bloody girlhood adventure, and a fascinating possibility suddenly presented itself. "Are you by chance named Molly Reese?" he asked. The woman's answer was impossible to understand, but it didn't matter. Bledsoe had continued, "Because if you are, ma'am, we stand to benefit nicely from this encounter, you and I." From the look of her, he could tell she was impoverished, and would surely respond to any prospect of benefit. She did respond. She accepted an invitation from him to dine at a nearby tavern, having not eaten a real meal in days, and her usual defensiveness quickly faded. He told her about himself and his preaching life, working his way delicately around the nature of his motives and interests, allowing her to realize slowly that his calling was not really a spiritual one. Rather than be put off by his blatant and unrepentant hypocrisy, she was drawn to it, finding in his willingness to exploit others a ground of hope that perhaps her life could become something better than she had known. She hadn't left the preacher's presence that night, and was still with him when the next morning came. He sent her away from the inn where they had stayed long before he left, so they wouldn't be seen departing overnight lodgings together. They rejoined outside the town. They hadn't parted since, forming a partnership both personal and professional. He told the sordid Molly Reese tale, and she allowed the gaping devotees of the false preacher to stare into her empty mouth while she sat beneath torchlight with her jaw dropped for their viewing convenience. She hated them all, but pretended otherwise for the sake of the gifts some of them gave her in pity. In all her lonely life, she'd never fared so well.